This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome back to Live Talk with Dr. Beatrice Hill. We do have continued guest Travis, as well as Dr. Smith. Now, if we have any viewers that would like to chat with us, there's a button in the upper right-hand corner that they can chat with us. So, Dr. B?
Thank you so much, Chrissy. And Dr. Smith, we missed you yesterday, but we did have a wonderful conversation. We were talking about the effects on families and friends. And but today we're going to get right back on the saddle, and I am going to go ahead and get rid of my camera and let the two of you talk. How's that?
Thank you, Dr. B. Travis, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Dr. Smith. How are you?
Although technically I should say good afternoon. And Travis, just so you know, the the you know, we are beginning the process of sending out faxes to a whole lot of doctors' offices, providers' offices, inviting them and their patients to participate in this show. The first faxes are going out this very minute. They just got operational. And my guess is, as the calendar moves forward, we're going to see more and more people joining us on the show, and they're going to have a lot of questions, and they're not going to have a clue as to what's going on. So on a regular basis, I think it would be a good idea. And by the way, I'm open to suggestions, Travis. I'm really looking to you to help us understand how best to talk to the people who are now just beginning to learn that their DNA may have been changed. So, Chrissy, if you'll throw that first slide up there, and Travis, this is the slide that I think, and I want your opinion on this. I think this is a slide that is a good introduction for people of what we're talking about. Now, this is a very, very, very complex scientific slide, but I think we have the ability to break this slide down into something that's understandable. So, Travis, what are your thoughts about this particular slide? What does this slide mean to you?
I think this slide of the gene and the promoters and the way that you explained it to me when I first learned about it, when you use the method of the house and the breakers, I think that's going to be the best way to explain it to people that are just now learning about their DNA being changed and their blood being poisoned. That's when you explained it to me that way. That's when it actually clicked. When you actually came in and said, if you see all the red, those are the promoters, and you see the blue, that's what it's supposed to be. But the red is where everything is kind of haywire. And you said it's like a breaker box in a house, where if you go inside of a house and you mess with all the breakers on the breaker box, the house isn't going to function properly. When you
Well,
explained it that way,
then let's
it
take a
clicked.
moment and walk through this slide together. This is how genetic people talk to each other. That's how high level and how complex this slide is. It is almost like you're looking at another language. Okay, this is how genetic people talk to each other. Genes are like little threads. Okay, they're like little long pieces of thread. And since they're like little long pieces of thread, it's important for the genetic people to be able to give addresses. Oh, where are you looking on the thread? Where are you talking about on the thread? And that's a lot of what you see on this slide right here. This is a roadmap of a straight piece of thread. This is how the genetic people talk to each other. And as you can, and if the um, viewer will take a few moments, even turn off the video if they're watching recorded, and blow this slide up and look at it, they'll see a little orange piece there, a little red orange piece there, salmon colored piece that says promoter. Okay, now that's a very important part of the gene because, as you say, Travis, the promoter region is identical to the circuit breaker box in a house. That's where things are turned on and off. If you're running electricity in your house, it's coming in through the circuit breaker. That's what the promoter region is. It controls everything downstream. And then we call the viewer's attention to the little blue and red columns down on the bottom. Those are specific addresses. So if this was a street, those would be houses. Those are specific addresses. And those are the specific addresses where the opioids cause their DNA damage. That's how exact this DNA test we developed is. This DNA test doesn't just tell you whether or not you've been damaged. It will give you the exact street addresses of where the damage occurred. That makes it very difficult for doubters to throw rocks at us and to doubt our science. The other thing that makes it difficult for people to throw rocks at our science is that what you're looking at right there is currently undergoing what's called CLIA certification. It's the highest standard of a lab test in the world. Okay, so you're looking at real science. And Travis, as you were saying, everywhere, every address where the red column is bigger than the blue column, that is an area of the DNA that got turned off. And as you can see, some, not all, but some of those addresses fall within the promoter region. And frankly, if you go into the promoter region of a gene and start turning stuff off, that's like going to the circuit breaker of a house and turning off circuit breakers. And Travis, if we went to your house right now and turned off 12 circuit breakers, would your house function normally? Might have lost you, Travis.
Travis, your microphone is off.
Sorry about that. Everybody froze up for a second. I apologize. No, it would not work properly.
So if a house isn't going to work properly, if you turn off a whole bunch of circuit breakers, Travis, what makes you think that your DNA is going to work properly if you turn off a whole bunch of switches? These are switches. They're identical to switches. They're not like a switch. They are a switch. This isn't an analogy. This isn't a comparison. Those addresses, that blue and that red, those addresses are what the genetic people call CPG islands. Don't get lost in the science. They're not like switches. They are switches. That's the important thing to understand here. Where the opioids caused their damage was on a whole bunch of switches. They're not like switches. They are switches. And it just takes a little bit of methylation to click, turn off the switch. Now, that gene, that OPRM1 gene, and we invite the viewer, take a moment, turn off the video, blow up the graphic in front of you, find where it says OPRM1. OPRM1 to the genetic people stands for opioid, opioid, OPR receptor M, mu1. Opioid receptor mu. That's the main opioid receptor. So you're looking at the gene for the main opioid receptor, and that receptor is old, it's ancient, and it's used all over the body, evidently including also to control the wires going into the organs, as we'll talk about. But Travis, if you go into the OPRM1 gene, go to like 30 of the switches, CPG islands, go to like 30 of the switches and just start randomly turning them off, and then you tell the gene, all right, go ahead and make your receptor. Is that receptor going to be normal?
No, sir, it would not.
It's kind of an impossibility, isn't it?
Yes, a big impossibility.
It is an impossibility to think that you can go in and I apologize, Travis. I think the number there is 36. It might be 26. I should know that off the top of my head. I will clarify that. Remember, I had a sports injury and am allowed a level of forgetfulness. I think that's 26 separate CPG islands that we're looking at there. I will double check that. If you go in and turn off 26 switches and then tell the gene to make the receptor, there ain't no way you're going to get a normal receptor. Travis, that's just common sense.
I agree with you.
Now, Travis, if you start making abnormal opioid receptors in your body, there's a good chance your body's not going to function normally.
Very good chance.
How can you go in and turn off 26 switches? 26 switches. How can you go into the gene, turn off 26 switches, some of them in the very sensitive promoter region? That's probably where the most damage is being done. How can you go in, turn off 26 switches? You turned it off by methylate, putting a methyl group on the switch. It only takes one methyl group to turn off the switch. You don't have to pile on a whole bunch of methyl groups. One will do it. You put one methyl group on each one of those switches, turn them off, and then you tell the gene, okay, go ahead and make your opioid receptor, the main opioid receptor, send it all over the body, and then expect the body to function normally. And Travis, for reasons we have no clue, absolutely no clue, it makes the biggest difference when people attempt opioid abstinence. Absolutely no clue on why. Don't know. But when you've got these faulty receptors all over the body and you would try to stop taking the opioids, you experience a sickness. Travis, you've experienced that sickness.
Oh yes, I have. It's something you can't even explain.
Let's grab onto your words right there, Travis. It's something you can't even explain. Do you mean it's difficult to explain to another person what it feels like?
Someone who has never endured that sickness or went through it, shall I say, in lack of a better words, but if you haven't been there and went through it, it's going to be very hard for someone else to explain it to you. Now, someone else who's been through it, they're going to know exactly what you're talking about as soon as you open up your mouth. Like you're not even going to have to elaborate. As soon as you explain to them what you went through, they're going to know exactly because they went through it as well. And they're going to know how scary it is and how frightening, or the word that I should use, that it is thinking about going to be that sick. Because when I tell you it's something you can't explain, it's something that I don't wish upon my worst enemy. It is that bad of a sickness. It's not like having the flu. If you can imagine the flu, it's like that times 100. I mean, it is that bad with a lot of other worse side effects that come into play. But I mean, just imagine having the flu and then imagine having other side effects like a runny nose that never stops. I mean, it just keeps pouring, your eyes watering, your hair standing up on your body, diarrhea, stomach pains. I mean, it's just it just never goes on. I mean, it never stops. It never stops until you can get another opioid. And that's the only thing that makes you feel normal when you're going through that. The only thing that stops it is if you can take an opioid, let it kick in, and then immediately, once it starts to kick in, you're normal again. You're not high. You're just 100% normal. You can actually function. You can go to work. You can be around people. You can go into public. But when you're going through that sickness, you can't do anything. I mean, it's a scary thing. You almost think you're going to die.
Let's come back to that point. That's a very important point. But Travis, before we leave this, and you and I have discussed this before, and you know that this is our theory. Our theory is that those abnormal opioid receptors, when they're located in the nerves going to and from, and mainly to the organs, when those abnormal receptors are located in the nerves going to the organs, and they're abnormal receptors, you got 26 places in the gene that got turned off. That means you got 26 holes in the receptor. Now, that receptor is not going to be able to function normally. And when that receptor is in charge of maintaining control over the organ systems, and then when that sickness comes on, why it happens when you attempt opioid abstinence, no clue. But when that sickness comes on, what we believe is happening is you're not so much losing control of the organ system, you're losing control of the nerve going into the organ system. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense to me.
So if you've got nerves going into your nose to control secretions to the nasal mucosa, the lining of the nose, and you lose control of the organs that make the secretions because you lose control of the nerve, that nose is just going to run and run and run, right?
Yes, sir.
And the same thing for your eyes. You lose control of the nerve that controls the secretions of the eyes. Those eyes are just going to water, water, water. You
Yes,
lose
sir.
control of the nerve that controls yawning, and you're just going to yawn. You lose control of the nerve that controls your gut, and you're going to lose control of your gut, the hair follicles, the sweat glands. And those are incredibly distressing symptoms. Travis, as we've said, and we're going to continue to say, you lose control of your sweat glands, that's uncomfortable. You lose control of your gut, that's distressing. You lose control of your adrenal gland, and that thing will kill you. And Travis,
Yes.
you were a participant, a volunteer in our clinical trial, and you had your blood drawn while you were in withdrawal. And Chrissy, if you could please, let's jump forward to the catecholamine slide. Travis, can you tell us a little bit about what it was like to be a participant in that slide, how you felt?
Um, it was when I learned about the trial and I learned that I had to go without my medication. It was very scary at first, but I think the bigger reason that I did it was for like the better good. Like I wanted to get to the bottom of what was going on with me, and I wanted to see the outcome of this. I wanted to find out what was going to be the results. I wanted to see what we found out. So that was the bigger motivation for me, but it was very, very scary. And while I was going through it, I didn't know if I was going to make it. Like I really didn't know if I was going to make it. I actually had to leave my medication at my mother's house locked up in a safe and I told her before I started it, I said, listen, no matter what I call you and say, I don't care if I'm saying I'm dying. I don't care if I'm manipulating you in any kind of way. I said, do not give me my medicine. I said, I have to do this. I want to make sure I do it the right way and that I can stay off the medicine for the 3 days and then go in there the next, after the third day, go in there on the fourth day and get my medications and my blood drawn, and I want to do this right. So, but I can tell you, I was begging her and through text and on the phone to come and get my medicine, but she was like, I'm not going to do it. You told me not to. But I pretty much felt like I was going to die. I told my wife on the way to the doctor's office, I was like, if this doesn't stop soon, I just want to like run out in front of traffic. I mean, I can't remember exactly what I said, but I told her I wanted to die. I was like, I'd rather die than feel like this. I feel like I just want to run out in front of a car right now and get hit because I just couldn't take it anymore. It keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse as the days go on, and it doesn't get easier. And it's just something I don't wish upon anybody, not even my worst enemy.
And then Travis, you came in and you had your blood drawn, and specifically you had your blood drawn for what we in the medical field know as catecholamines, but the layperson would know as adrenalins. There are three adrenalins: norepinephrine, epinephrine, and dopamine. And Travis, you can see this on the screen right there, the results. And Travis, if I'm not mistaken, you're number 700. So Travis, can you tell us what your blood levels were right there?
Yeah, my epinephrine was 153, which is very, very high. My dopamine level was 58, which is very, very high. And it looks like my norepinephrine leveled out at 564, which I guess is normal because it's not yellow.
Perfect. All right. So, Travis, we had a theory that if we were right, and we are, but we had a theory that if we were right, and instead of the brain disease model of addiction where you're just craving opioids to get high because your brain wants that surge in dopamine that never actually happens. But we didn't believe in the brain dopamine theory of addiction. We believed that what was happening were people were losing control of their organs because of the loss of control of the nerve going to the organs. And so we believe that the blood draw of the catecholamines would give us an answer. Is it a brain disease or is it a nerve disease? Is it a brain disease and people are just craving to get high and therefore their adrenaline levels will be normal? Or is it a nerve disease, a nerve toxicity, what we would call a neurotoxicity, a dysfunction in the nerves, The nerves are losing control of the organs. One of the organs you lose control of is the adrenal gland, and therefore you're going to see abnormal adrenaline levels. So, Travis, looking at your blood work right there, you've got epinephrine levels high enough to kill you, dopamine level elevated also. Given the results of your blood work, is your blood work consistent with a brain disease where you're just craving to get high? Or is your blood work consistent with a nerve dysfunction wherein the body has lost control of the organs?
Dr. Smith, I believe it's a nerve dysfunction where my body's losing control of its organs. I don't believe it's a mental disorder.
They told you were an opioid addict.
Yeah, I understand what they're saying, but the
Travis,
problem with that,
you're resisting admitting that you're an opioid addict, and how are you ever going to get better unless you admit you're an opioid addict?
I understand that, but the problem is how can I admit that when I know for a fact I wasn't waking up every day just trying to get high? That never once crossed my mind. I woke up every day trying not to be sick, deadly scared of becoming sick. I never woke up saying, "Oh, it's time to get high. 7 o'clock in the morning, let's go get high." That wasn't the deal. The deal was, "Oh my God, what am I going to do?" Panic mode sets in. I don't want to be sick. I have to find something now because I cannot be sick. I can't be sick. That's all that goes through your brain.
Christy, let's jump ahead to the next slide. And Travis, you said panic mode. It is our belief that what drives that panic mode is the fact that your brain was soaked in adrenaline, epinephrine, and part of the function of epinephrine is to make sure that whatever happened that caused the epinephrine to surge doesn't happen again. This is why kids don't put the fork in the electrical outlet. At least most kids don't put the fork in the electrical outlet twice.
Right.
You put the fork in the electrical outlet, you get the surge in epinephrine, and your brain goes, we ain't doing that again.
Yeah, we learned our lesson.
Right. You learned a lesson. Epinephrine makes sure that lesson is burned into the brain. That's what we believe causes so much of the panic in people when they are faced with possibly going into withdrawal. All right. So, by the way, I want to take a moment and I want to thank Dr. B for not putting Dr. Nora Volkow's picture up before she put Dr. Nora Volkow chart up, because everybody knows how the picture of Dr. Nora Volkow just triggers me, because
You're
I feel she's
welcome.
the architect of
You're
the
very
opioid.
welcome.
I
thought I'd give you a break.
Thank you. And we only got, if we make it to the end of the meeting today without looking at Dr. Nora Volkow's picture, I'm clear till next week. So we're going to make it here. Again, in my opinion, she is the architect of the opioid crisis, and even her picture triggers me. But this is her graph, her chart. And Travis, will you point out to me on that chart where it says elevated catecholamines? Will you point out to me on that chart where it says elevated adrenalines? And Travis, you went into withdrawal and we drew blood on you and your adrenaline levels were sky high. Travis, you're looking at the brain disease model of addiction that the entire country is currently believing. And Travis, it's not going to matter how long you stare at that picture. You're not going to find the words catecholamines or adrenaline on that picture because it's not part of their theory.
Right. No, it's not either. I'm looking and it's not there.
Their theory is a brain disease. Now, you went into opioid, what people call opioid withdrawal. You had your blood drawn, your catecholamines were sky high, your adrenalines were sky high. But yet, according to the chart in front of you, according to Dr. Nora Volkow, when you went into withdrawal, what were you actually experiencing according to the experts here? How does she phrase it? Can you, maybe you can see it better than I do.
Withdrawal and negative effect. Stress and reward, it says response to drug, but I can't really see the whole graph on here. I can't see the top.
It says feeling reduced excitement.
No, it says feeling, okay, withdrawal and negative effect. Feeling reduced energy, feeling reduced excitement, feeling depressed, anxious, and restless.
Travis, You know, we shouldn't laugh because this has killed millions of people. But Travis, what the heck is feeling reduced excitement?
Yeah, that has nothing to do with it. You're not excited about anything. I mean, it's the only excitement you get is when you're not sick anymore. I mean, and that's not even excited. You're just relieved. You know, you're more relieved than excited.
So our theory is because you've got DNA poisoning, you've got 26 areas at least of the DNA has been shut off. You got abnormal receptors, and you're losing control of the uh, uh, nerves going into the organ systems. That's our theory of what's happening in opioid withdrawal. Her theory is you're feeling reduced excitement.
Yeah, I don't agree. I don't agree with what she's saying.
And Travis, she's the director of the National Institute of Drug Abuse.
I
She's
understand who she is, but she was never on opioids before. And quite frankly, with her studies here, if they are studies, I don't even know if she, and I don't know if I could say this, but it doesn't even look like she ever studied anyone who was on opioids. I mean, did she ever ask them how they felt? Did she ever really test them out and see what was going on? Because all she'd have to do was just ask somebody what they feel, you
no,
know.
Travis, this is Dr. Nora Volkow. She doesn't have to talk to anybody. She's that brilliant.
Yeah, but that's the problem. You know, someone's not that brilliant. You can do all the science you want, and I think science, you can't argue with science, but her theory is not matching up to the science, is what I'm trying to say. Her theory is not matching up. And you could talk to a million people who used to be on opioids, and they're all going to tell you the same exact thing. Exactly what I'm saying to you today. You know, you're not chasing a high. That doesn't happen. After you've been on the opioids for about a month, maybe if you're lucky, 2 months, you're not chasing anything but trying not to be sick. Getting high doesn't even enter your brain. Well, with me, it didn't anyways. And I know with a lot of other people I've talked to, they said the same thing. It never once entered their brain. They didn't wake up every day saying, let's go get high, guys. It was like, okay, I got to find something so I'm not sick. I cannot be sick, because you don't want to go through that. Once you've been sick one time, you'll do anything you can not to go sick again. It takes one time to experience, and after you've experienced it for one time, you will never go through it again. You'll do whatever it takes not to go through it again.
And do you understand why we believe that happens? That one time
Yes.
is all it takes. Why?
Because basically well, to explain it in terms where everybody could understand, your body is teaching you a lesson not to go through that again, because your body realizes that it was that bad that you don't want to have to go through that again. Just to explain it in terms where everybody could understand.
Don't stick the fork in the electrical outlet again. That's what
Exactly.
epinephrine does. Travis, you see right there in front of you that according to the brilliant Dr. Nora Volkow, whose grandfather was the great Russian philosopher Tolstoy, according to Dr. Volkow, when you were going into opioid withdrawal, you were feeling reduced excitement. But Travis, we drew your blood. Your adrenaline levels were sky high. Travis, when your adrenaline levels are sky high, are you really feeling reduced excitement? I mean, those things will you're not feeling, they'll agitate you to the 10th degree.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling reduced excitement. Matter of fact, I was sick, but at the same time, it was like, I don't know how to explain it. Say you got like robbed at gunpoint, and you have an adrenaline rush, and it kicks in. It was almost like I was sick as heck, but at the same time, my body felt like that too. Like I was just, I don't know, like I couldn't stop thinking. My body was just, I didn't really have control of too much when I was that sick. When I was going through that trial, it was bad. It was pretty bad.
But weren't you having an adrenaline rush?
I felt like I was, yeah. Like it was,
according to your blood work, you were.
Yeah, like it was never ending though. Like it was like, I don't know how to explain that either. It was really, really weird when I went through that study.
Okay, all right, let's talk about that. Let's talk about because we got 20 seconds here.
Okay.
The half-life of adrenaline is 2 minutes. You had your blood drawn after 3 days.
Yes. Yes. And after doing research, I feel like the only reason I didn't die is because my body did run out of adrenaline. Like even after what you told me and showed me the graphs, I went online and I read a few things. I actually researched it, and I believe that I did not die from some type of cardiac arrest, like a stroke, heart attack, because my body ran out of adrenaline. That's the only reason.
So
Well,
look,
that's been a stimulating conversation today, and that chart is absolutely amazing with the stages of addiction cycle. That is really a very busy chart. Let me just say that it's a very busy chart, and but I really appreciate all the knowledge that's coming out for everyone that's involved, and for the people who have joined us during this show. And I think Chrissy's going to take it away, and we will be back again on Monday.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us again. Insightful, information. And thank you, Dr. B, for bringing these guests on to have their opinions, have statistics, and will join us back on Monday, every Monday through Thursday at 12:30. Thank you.
And remember, science doesn't lie.